Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, and I am here for Norma Talks. Very often when you're thinking about, got 3 days when I talk about things, what do I talk about today? How does it really work? And I was sitting here yesterday thinking about that, and I thought, well, let me see what my tarot says would be a good topic for tomorrow. So I pulled three cards. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and you can kind of watch. Well, not kind of watch, but you can watch how I wind them together. Three cards came out: the Magician, the Nine of Cups, and the Ten of Wands. And as I looked at that, the story evolved. Now, as a tarot card reader, of course, I'm used to making and seeing the stories that come out, and they have taught me just amazing things over the years as a reader. How symbols come together in different shades of them. It's not like this is the only thing that it says or that's the only thing that it says. But it sometimes brings a point and broadens things out as to what we're having to deal with in relation to life and things like that. I don't know if any of you lately have run into having phone calls saying that large amounts of money have been put onto a credit card or something. I had another one early this morning. It kind of took me by surprise because I was getting sort of ready. I was up early actually and was getting ready to do things. And I had one the other day, and it was kind of like this morning took me by surprise because I wasn't really expecting it. Well, are we ever? And then the more we moved on in the conversation, I realized this doesn't make sense to me. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up cutting the call off. But there's a lot of that going on out there right now. Again, I've run into it a few times in the last few years. So it's really like being aware. But at the same point, we also need to recognize that we are conscious beings and we can have and utilize our thinking and our processes to understand and come to an awareness. The first time I got really hoodwinked because it sounded so real was regarding the computer, and it ended up costing me money because I had to go and get it fixed up. And he said, "Oh, I think there's some scammers being in here." And I said, "Yes." And so I'm aware now when that kind of call comes in is just disengage right away, because they make it sound really good. And if anybody has seen the movie The Beekeeper, and I wished I had seen The Beekeeper before I had that phone call, because I would have known exactly what was going on. And there's another one coming out called Thelma also. So there's lots of movement out there, but really the movie The Beekeeper, it's a little bit aggressive at times, but it really shows you what is happening out there every day for people, and costing them a lot of money. Anyhow, besides that, I don't know where that's coming from, but just that this morning I was involved in this phone call and something was telling me in the background of my head was like, don't continue this phone call. There's something not quite right. And so it was, as just interesting, makes me aware, makes things that as things are happening. So let's take a look at what we're talking about today. The symbology of the magician is that basically everything is possible. But the key here, if you have a tarot card, you can see that there is the magician who is playing the magic, has a table, and upon that table is each of the symbols of the four suits. The wands for thinking, the cups for the feelings and emotions, swords for the problems and the issues we have to resolve, and the pentacles for the finances, the money part of things. And that's what we work with in our life. But the significance of this symbol is one of the things that I really love, because it's the first one you run into, really, is that below the gentleman, who's dressed in a red robe with white, and around his waist he has a snake, which is his intellect, his knowledge, his awareness, his psychicness, and above him is the infinity sign. And he holds a wand in one hand, and the other hand points down into the earth. In other words, as above, so below. And And below him, there are flowers, lilies and roses, which are, we call them the flowers of aspiration, to aspire above to the red roses, which fills in this symbol. He has a wand, by the way, in the hand. I might have mentioned that one hand, saying as he is able to create magic because he's the magician. One needs to understand how one life works. And to a large degree, we're not really trained as children, or we're not really taught as children how to implement this awareness of this power that is there for us that we can bring forward and work with it. And with the flowers below is the red roses of desire with the white lilies of aspiration. So we desire to aspire above. When we go up above as to what we aspire to, we need to recognize that there are avenues, there are energies around that we can draw on, that we can pull on, and that we can be at peace and at wonder within ourselves as we move forward. So, in the beginning, which the magician is really the beginning of the higher arcana journey, says a lot of people think it's the fool, but I always put the fool at the end because I don't think we have it figured out how faith really works in the beginning. We really want to understand how it all works. I should mention the snake around his waist because he's got a tail in his mouth. And very often we see in the tarot the symbology of that, where whatever may be a little bit unsettled, we have it contained. So the tail of the snake comes into the mouth like this. And by the way, notice I've got my arm is working better. I'm doing my exercises. And so it's really actually comes in a real awareness of being in command. So as above, so below. So how do we aspire above to bring down whatever it is that we want? What I find for a lot of people, and I find this often, is that we know what we want, but we don't know how to create it. We don't know how to bring it from that kind of magical soup, as we would call it, and to manifest it. Now, in my life of being older, I've had a lot of time to experience manifesting. And so I've had to do that many times to actually manifest into my life what I have wanted. So it is like being, first of all, being very clear in your thinking of what it is you want, and not of maybe or it would be nice. It's like being very clear and very, very definite that this is what I'm aspiring to. The universe listens. And that's what I find very often people forget, that when you are putting an order in, that the universe listens and hears. So if you're not clear, if you're not succinct, it kind of is like it's like on the phone call this morning, I'm trying to figure out what this person is saying and going on about, is like, it's buzz on the line, and then things don't manifest in a way that comes together easily or brings about a sense of purpose and awareness. So it really is, it's like aspiring above clearly and very succinctly about what you're wanting to create. And because to me, the magician always says everything is possible. Now, that means there's no doubt in the mind. The mind is saying, okay, I'm giving this over to bring it forward. And of course, there's other symbols that follow, but it's like very much that beginning of the journey of the higher arcana is to really understand that there is an energy and a force that is there for you to utilize, that you're not alone. See, there's a tendency to think we have to do it all ourselves. What we need is clarity, awareness, and to be able to ask very specifically how you want things to be. Now, if we move on to the next symbol that I picked out, which is the Nine of Cups, then it's like everything is absolutely fine. It's delivered. Everything is here. And what I love about this particular symbol, because the man that's in there with his arms folded, not a good sign to have your arms folded, yes, but also he's portly, a little bit like myself. Life has really been good. And he's got his feet planted on the ground. He's got his, here I am. And everything is really going very, very well. And I'm sure if those of you that have lived a certain length of time find we have those times when all of a sudden it's like everything is in its right place. And we just sit down and we relax and we enjoy where we're at. The unfortunate thing, it doesn't always remain that way. It's like a time thing sometimes. Or it's like when you look at the cups all set out of it, the earth shakes a little bit, the cups would fall over. There's lots of things that will disturb what you have created and what you're enjoying. But the key is to learn how to enjoy it when it's there. I learned very early to, well, first of all, I want to say being raised in New Zealand was a country that very much enjoyed whatever was going on. I was raised with that. Even when I had older parents, but I had older sisters who had kids, not much younger than me, all the way through. They had a big lot of kids. But there was a lot of enjoyment that went on, very basic, because it was such a beautiful, warm country the majority of the time, 2 months of winter. That was about it. We were outside. We were enjoying what games. We were all sporty. That's why New Zealanders are sporty, because they're outside a lot because of the beautiful weather and beaches and everything else. Excuse me a sec. Yes, I still have a little bit of my coughing going on. But anyway, so this is a nice memory that I have as a child growing up. Very active, very sporty, did lots of sports. And it's like life was full. There wasn't too much to worry about. So oh dear, my throat's deciding it's one and really having it was really being irritated by something. It's been good all morning, of course. Now, when we think about creating in our lives and things are moving and we like what's happening and what's going on and how it all comes together, how come we begin to worry about it? How come we begin to feel something's not right or waiting for disaster to happen? That's what I find a lot of people do. I know I've worked with people who I feel that we've got everything working really well in whatever it is, their business or whatever. And then all of a sudden their fear factor comes up. And even when we work with their fear, it's like they still want to go back there. It's like it's comfortable. It's like if we worry about what may happen or what we don't want to have happen, maybe it won't, or maybe I don't know what it does. It's just that, and I'm trying to think for myself because wasn't much of a worry wart. Yes, I had things go incorrect at times. I mean, when you run a business, yeah, it happens. Sometimes things go inside out, but I never worried about that. Oh, and when it happened, I took care of what needed to be taken care of. But if you ever pull on the 10 of Wands here, it's like all these ideas, and you're not carrying them. You're carrying them, and you can't see that you're actually close to the end result. You lose your sight or your vision of the future. And consequently, when you lose the sight of your vision of where you're heading into your future, is like it becomes burdensome. So the joy, which is in the 9 of Cups, where everything is fine and happy, and look at this, I've succeeded, and everything's good. It's like all of a sudden we got, in a way, we have our arms folded again around our thoughts. So let's talk about thinking for a moment. The thought creates your vibration. There's two ways we create a personal vibration. Is that one is through our thinking and one is through our feeling. So how are we feeling? Now, the thought very often is the driving force that brings about the feelings up. And so they're co-creation in a way. And it's like when we begin to worry, when we begin to think about what we're doing and how is it going and what's happening and what about, and usually it's a what if this happens? What if that happens? What if we do that? What if we do that? So in other words, no clarity. And if you remember in The Magician, we give clarity. We say, thank you very much for this, because this is what I want. We get clear in our thinking. The clearer in your thinking, the more the universe understands what you're wanting. But when you get into worry and similar things like that, you're not clear. So what do you think the universe is out there saying, whatever you want, you can have. And all of a sudden you have all this worry thought going on. What do I do about this? What do I do about that? Oh my goodness, what if this happens? What if that happens? Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. There's not enough money. There's not enough time. There's, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, great, because most people do. So you begin to worry. And when you worry, you lose sight of the goal. And that's what that 10 of Wands represents, losing sight of the goal. You lose sight of where you're heading. You lose sight of what you're going for, so that your message externally is like this. You can't see. But also the universe looks to that mental element going out, often with emotion behind it, yes, to know what to bring you, because it doesn't differentiate. It doesn't sit back and say, oh, this is good for this, and this is bad for it. It doesn't do that. It doesn't judge. There's no judgment in love. And what you're dealing with when you're dealing with the universal energy, it's a loving energy. It wants to give you what you want. Sometimes that's hard to understand, but it's the truth. So, and how does it know what you want? By how you order. The magician orders. The 9 of Cups says, thank you. Look at that. Everything is just tickety-boo. But we're human. Now, often we have a lot of emotional stuff going on, but the 10 of Wands, what it's saying, it's mental. It's all of a sudden we see all the things that could go wrong or have gone wrong or feel wrong, and it feels like we're never going to get to that goal that we want. It's like there's a saying, isn't it? A stretch too far? I think it's a step or a stretch. Okay? A step too far. It's like, and so what happens is like this. We lose sight of the goal. We lose sight of the direction of where we're going. Now, of course, if we're always putting out we want something and it isn't happening, you'd have to take a look at that too. That would be a whole element as to how come it's not being delivered. That because some people say, well, I work on this and I ask for this and do this and do that, and I'm not getting it. Well, there's a lot of different factors on that position that you would have to look at and figure out. But on the whole, this is about you becoming aware of gratitude. Now, there's not a symbol in here that says anything about gratitude, but you give thanks for what is there. And if you move into worry, which we endeavor to stay out of, by the way, we endeavor to stay out of that. I find, I'm human. I have times things double up. And, as everybody who's listened to the program in the last almost 2 years now, I've had some health crises, which is not always what I've been dealing with. And if I was feeling like, well, this is the end, as the different things came up, and I realized, no, it's each one has brought me something new. I learned a whole new process through having this because I asked. I'm a great believer in asking and you shall receive, but you got to ask. You got to ask for that information. You got to ask for where you're heading. You got to ask. And like when I sit down to read for somebody, I don't presume, I ask to be shown what they need to know, even though that may be in a way very, what would you say, instinctive now, because I've read for so many years. But today, what my concern is more about, are you aware of those little worry thoughts? Whether you see them as fear, whether you see them as just worry things that are there, like it comes as maybe or what if or if only. Like there's always a downer on it. Debbie Downer, right? That's what people say. Don't get into your Debbie Downers. I wonder where that started. But anyway, it's like whenever you do that, just stop and say, what do I really want here? Am I projecting that? Am I asking, am I looking for that rather than this? Because people very often look for what isn't going to work rather than what is working. and what they can use and take and work with that and bring that forward. Because it's important, I think, for us to remember that that universal love energy that I talk about is there for you. It's there to aid you, guide you, bring to you what it is that you want. Now, I have to, my mind I started laughing, first of all, as my thought came into my head. Sometimes you ask for something that's broad and it's not really what you want. And that often happens, but that's how you learn. The experience of life is about learning one thing after the other, and you get clearer and you get more specific in what it is that you want, instead of maybe putting out a great big theory. You climb it down to something that's more tangible because it's clearer in your mind. And when it's clearer in your mind, the universe gets the message very clearly. Oh, this is what they want. Because it's always, always, always endeavoring to give you exactly what it is you want. And just remember that. This is your support system, always wanting to do. Do we always do it correctly? No, because we're human and we get caught up in what's going on and we forget. But that's what experience brings. That's what age brings, hopefully, not always, but hopefully, and a sense of purpose, of direction, that everything adds. I have a saying, and some of you have heard me say this: everything adds. Just think about that. Everything adds. Even though you may not like it, it adds. What is it adding? Maybe more knowledge, more awareness, a realization. Don't worry. Don't go there. Leave that alone. Our thoughts create. We want them clear, concise, and aware. And I know I always say I'm a good example because I'm not always perfect. And I know when I was having trouble with my elbow, and my elbow was like I just couldn't see what was going on. It was changing, and I was having actually arguments with the doctors. And finally we got that straightened out. And now I have an arthritis therapist who's working with my elbow. And now I've got things I have to do every day, which may not always do it every day, but mostly I get these exercises to get the elbow back moving again. And a recognition that, yeah. So it's like, ask what you want. Like I wasn't happy because no one was explaining to me why the pain in my elbow had shifted and why it had gone from doing quite well to doing not at all. And no one was explaining it to me. And I like explanations. I like to know. And you may be the same as me. You want to know. And sometimes they just seem to, oh, well, that's how it is. But it isn't how it is. So by understanding, you can begin to work with the energies, what I call the energies of the universe, because you can put your request in to bring in. Maybe you need more perseverance. Maybe you just need to be comfortable with what's happening. Maybe there's a lot of things, and it's like calmness inside, not the worriness of the 10 of Wands, not the worriness, not the feeling you're never going to get there. You will get there. May take longer journey than you wanted, but you will get there. Life brings about so many beautiful and wonderful adventures. So today we know everything is possible. We know we can enjoy it all, but we also know that sometimes we get so caught up in our heads, we let the fear come in, we let the maybe come in, the perhaps, the what ifs. And what that does is it closes us off from seeing what's there and seeing that we're probably much closer to the end result than we ever realized. Well, I really, really want to thank you for watching and listening. And also, I get so many lovely comments, and I don't answer them always right away, but I do eventually get there. And I thank you for that. I also want to thank Kayla for her comments this morning. And for those of you that are watching, and all those of you that will watch, because I know you don't always come here at 9:00 on a Wednesday morning. And so now, as we look to the rest of the week, I will be back on Sunday at 9 a.m. with a Sunday thought. And who knows what comes out of that one. And then, of course, Monday night, which is one of my favorite, actually one of my favorites, because I don't have to plan anything. I just have to show up, and people give me their three numbers. They give me their issue, and I really enjoy that. It's to me amazing sometimes, and that's one of the things that brings about the joy and the love that I have within my life. I want to thank you for watching again, and thank you for your comments. I really, really appreciate that. Lots of love. Have a good week, and remember, everything is possible. Magician is great for that. And enjoy, and no more worry. Okay. Bye now.